Hey guys, Clendros here. We've got another entry here for Ladies Week. So continuing on with our theme for the week, we're gonna do a band we haven't done before, but a band that, as some of you probably know, I'm a huge fan of, which is Unleash the Archers. So, got my Unleash the Archers shirt on, and we're ready to go. I'm gonna be doing Apex, which is my favorite song on the album. Um, and it's interesting because it's a little bit different of a song from them compared to a lot of their other songs that they've done videos for or released. Um, or really, I don't know that there's a song like this on um, Time Stand Still, and certainly don't think there was anything like that on Demons of the Astral Waste. So, um, actually, there is. Um, I take that back. There is some stuff, but I mean, this one was very unique because of the way it's structured. So, we'll get into that when we do the breakdown. But this is a really cool song. We'll look at the lyrics and I'll talk a little bit about what they mean because although this is not a typical song like I normally would review on this channel, where it's real life issues or stuff where you've got to decipher the meaning. There's an actual story here, so I'll kind of do a little bit of a summary because this is the conclusion of the story, but this is a larger story which spans however many albums, at least two, so maybe more, we don't know. But anyways, so before we get into that, shout out to the big homies Vin and Sori. This is their favorite band. So they're gonna hate me for that, but anyways, it's really it just struck me as so funny because I've honestly never heard anyone who didn't really like Awakening, so it was quite a shock to me. But anyways, this is Apex. Actually, I'm going to be doing this one from through actually direct from my iTunes library because I have the actual CD. Actually, it's funny because I really could do that with a lot of these bands. I actually have a lot of the for the bulk of the songs that I've done. Actually, I have the actual music for, but I just never really thought of actually doing it through iTunes before. I just by default go through YouTube, and sometimes if you're doing a video like yesterday, the Offenheimer song where I did the actual video, which shout out to those guys because it's really cool that they gave me a comment. I really appreciate that. It's really awesome that the bands actually get something out of this, which is not necessarily something I would really be thinking of, but it's really it's cool that they enjoy the content, and the same thing with the guys from Witherfall. It means a lot that they watched. They actually, because it's a long ass freaking video. The Offenheimer song was like now 15 minutes of it was channel update stuff, but I mean still it was a 40-minute plus breakdown of that song, which that's a lot of commitment. So props to those guys for going through, and especially when I was talking with the guys from Witherfall, they were like saying, oh, this section was inspired by this band and stuff, and I mean it really shows that they actually listened to it and stuff, and which is just super cool. We will be getting back for sure to Witherfall next week. I definitely want to do vintage, and I noticed that the video does not have a copyright tag on it, so should not get blocked. And we'll see. So that'll probably be certainly one of the ones we do next week. I promised somebody I was going to do some Dream Theater next week, so that's on the list. I'd like to do a death song next week as well, so that's on the list. And then beyond that, it's sort of up in the air. So I've asked for, some friends for, to give me some requests and stuff. So hopefully we'll get a viewer request next week as well. So anyways, because I really enjoyed doing the Chelsea Wolfe song, which, like I told Jen, it's not the kind of thing I normally would listen to, but honestly, that's one of the great things about doing, reaction channels. And I don't do a ton of reactions. Most of my stuff is breakdowns, but, one of the things that I really find, and I realize when I do a reaction, why people who do reaction channels do them, because there's a thrill in experiencing something that you really have no idea what you're going into. And if you love music like I do, and I gotta figure a lot of these guys that are doing reaction channels, hopefully, love music. So, that love of music, a lot of times you really find stuff and you're like, well, this is actually really cool. It may not necessarily be something you're going to sit down and listen to on a daily basis, but it's something different, something unique. So we'll see what comes next week for that, if there's any requests there. So let's go ahead and jump into this song. This is Apex.
Remember me, child of your womb. I returned from a perilous place to the warmth of your love. Embrace me, steady giant, monolith. Lend me your heart. I am weakened again, tired, and my scars. As your color sings, take to me. Your roots take their hold. My body has one with the earth. My blood as the stone. The mountain, my home. Oh. by the mountain, and now we sleep for 1,000 years. I will see you again. Something is coming, coming for me.
All right. So that was Apex. That song, man, I really like that song. It's certainly my favorite on the album, which is why I chose it. But and we'll get into the lyrics a little bit later in the story part of it. But I want to talk for a little bit about the music on this one because it's a fairly unique song in that for two reasons. One is that it's one of the rare occasions I feel like where we really get to hear the fullest extent of Britney's vocal range, but not in like a on like a scream perspective, not like it's not like Tonight We Ride where it's like the like the Lost Horizon ultra crazy screams and stuff. It's like it's really her singing, just like really using the whole breadth of her, and probably not even the full top of her range because I've heard her sing higher, but there's a lot of like grit and emotion in those first couple of verses. But I think it's interesting that they chose to open the song as to do it with like a coda, which is a really odd choice. It's not something you see a ton of where it's like a musical coda, like a reference to sort of the main melody of the song, just for like a few bars, and then they go into the acoustic intro of the song, where it's just acoustic guitar and Britney's incredible voice, and then some very sparse heavy guitars come in for like the second part of the intro, and then we go into the song proper. And what's funny is this song too is also unique in that I'd have to look at I don't have a tab for this actually, but I know a friend actually who was getting a tab made for this one to do the song for Rocksmith. But I'd love to look at the tab because I'm feeling like for sure that this was very much a major key melody again, which is interesting because we just had a song the other day which used some major key and and someone actually commented on it and was like, well, this is a little weird, and they actually found it somewhat off-putting, but it's different than what you typically hear in a metal song, because a major key melody is going to be lighter and less dark, and this song, despite being actually somewhat dark in a way, is actually has a very uplifting sort of energetic feel for the majority of the song, all throughout that whole, it's bookended by these two acoustic sections that have sort of a little bit more melancholy to them, but the bulk of the song is very upbeat, and it follows very much what I would certainly call an Iron Maiden-esque structure, where it's got that gallop, which is like usually so closely associated with Iron Maiden. And that's all throughout the song. But the real Iron Maiden references actually come in after the solo, and I have to think for sure that was clearly intentional and a nod to one of the greatest metal bands of all time. and because you have twin guitars playing that galloping rhythm, which is just a total nod to Iron Maiden, and such a great rhythm. And it's not like it's a ripoff of an Iron Maiden song, because it's not. It's the structure of how Iron Maiden tends to write their material, and it's totally a nod to it, but yet it really feels like its own thing, and it's really cool. But the other thing that's really great about this song too, before we get into the solo, is the chorus is such a freaking awesome chorus. It's one of those, I think it's the best chorus that Britney's ever written, for sure. Because when I listen to, even the catchier songs off of Time Stands Still, nothing compares to like how catchy this chorus is. It grabs you just, and you are like, it is really hard to not sing along to this one. You saw me probably all throughout, like singing along on the chorus. And this one is just one where you feel the urge to do it, and it's great. This is also unique in another way, in that it's one of their songs. There's a couple songs I think like this on the album, where there are no extreme vocals used at all. There's like not a single one on this song, and there may be some other songs on the album where that happens, but most of the songs on this record have at least a little, some to a greater extent. Obviously, it's a larger part of like Cleanse the Bloodlines and the Matriarch, and some of these other ones, Shadow Guide, have more of the death sort of vocals. But it's kind of interesting. His vocal style is very. A friend of mine called it Golem singing, because it sounds a little bit like Golem, but it's closer a little bit more to almost black metal in some ways, because it's definitely higher. It's not like it's not super deep like some of the traditional death metal. But death metal has a very wide gamut in terms of vocal range. So, but the solo for this one is great. I mean, all their solos, and I mean, the one thing that you can't say, even. So I made a little dig earlier at Vin and Sorry, but even they could not deny the musical ability, and these guys really have it in spades. And the solo is so good on this one. It's nowhere near their Awakening is probably the hardest, I think, musically speaking, on the album. There was another song that was really difficult too, but it was one of those ones where it was difficult, but it didn't strike me as difficult, because it's when you see the tablature, then you realize how difficult it is to play. Awakening, you hear it and you're like, okay, that song is crazy. But this one, like, the solo is not all that crazy here. It's difficult for sure, but it's not like insane. But one of the things that I've always said is one of the keys to a really good guitar solo is, does it fit in the song? And for the greatest guitar solos of all time, if you take the guitar solo out of this song, is it the same song? I mean, think about like Comfortably Numb, right? One of the most iconic guitar solos of all time, right? And the reason is, if you take that guitar solo out of that song, that it's no longer Comfortably Numb anymore. It's some song that's less, So, when I say that, like this guitar solo is not as flashy as some of the other ones, it's actually really nice, because this is a solo where it's not just crazy difficult. And I actually really love the solo in Awakening. it's not like it's not like, you know, it's mindless shredding. That's not the case at all. Um, but it's with this one, it's the just the right amount of solo for what's required here. It works in the song, and more importantly, it follows the melody of the song, which is another thing. Like when I look at great solos, there's a solo for a song by Alter Bridge, right? The song is Blackbird. I know a lot of people probably heard the song. The solo for that song is fantastic because it's a perfect example of when you are working within the melody of the song so tightly that the solo feels like it's part of the melody of the song. You know, and that's when you know you've really hit a home run with a guitar solo, you know. So it's you know, it's not definitely not a bad thing if the solo is more melodic and not necessarily super crazy. So I love the solo, and then of course, like I said, we come out of the solo into this total nod to Iron Maiden with the twin guitars, and it's so cool. I love that part, and because I'm a huge Maiden fan, I've seen probably Maiden like 5 times, I think, maybe more. Trying to think, I've seen him 3 times down here in Florida. Um, Maybe actually 4 times down here in Florida, and then at least once that I can remember up in DC, because I obviously I'll never forget, because it was the only time I saw him live. Because when I went and saw Iron Maiden, I saw it was Maiden, Dio, and Motorhead, which is, when you think on paper, right, such an incredible, amazing lineup. But when you think about it now, it's not only as incredible, but it's also you know, very much bittersweet because you know, both Lemmy and Dio were gone, and that was the only time. You know, I'm a huge Dio fan. It was the only time I saw Dio live. You know, and it's so funny because I always used to joke about it because he's this little guy, you know, but has such a huge, massive voice. You know, it's just unbelievable how powerful this man's voice was for such a, you know, relatively small human being. He had incredible stage presence, you know, and that's when you know, like, the legendary frontmen or front women, when, you know, they're so compelling on stage. I remember seeing Arch Enemy in like the 2000s. I don't know exactly when it was, but it was when Angela Gossow was with them. So before Alyssa joined the band, right? And I was not at all. I had actually I'd only like heard a very small portion of like one Arch Enemy song, and I was blown away when I saw them live, just because of her insane, like, magnetic, charismatic stage presence, you know. And I think that was one of the crazy things about Arch Enemy is, like, you know, when you saw them live, they were a force, and that was really because Angela was just this incredible force as a front woman. Bringing that back to Unleash the Archers, unfortunately did not get a chance to see them live because they did not come down to Florida. I know they were trying, but yeah, I was very disappointed, and I had already made the trip up to Georgia to see Winter Sun, Nail Viscaris, and Sarah Longfield. So I couldn't do another out-of-state trip for a concert. It just wasn't in the cards. So I was really disappointed. Luckily, I have some amazing friends who, you know, got the shirt for me and the signed postcard. You know, it's, you know, yeah, I mean, it's awesome. So, I haven't seen them live, but I have seen some great live videos. Uh, for those of you who are fans of Unleash the Archers, there are three pro shot videos out there on YouTube. Dr. Light Productions did some great pro shot videos of Unleash the Archers in Montreal, I believe. And it was Dream Crusher, which is a great song, Time Stand Still, and actually it's 4 songs. Frozen Steel, but then there was another one. I'm pretty sure they did a song from Demons of the Astral Waste. I'm not sure which one it was. But anyways, so there is some live stuff out there, and so I know from that live footage that I've seen that that Brittany also is a amazing front woman. So that that energy, and nowadays, if you were gonna make it as a metal band, you gotta have a good live act. That's why people look at heavy metal in general as the live music because most of these bands that are playing heavy metal, you can't fake it in the studio. They make their living by touring. Most of these bands are doing that, and from friends' experiences with their own bands, it's tough out there. So I wasn't super mad when I found out they weren't coming down to Florida, but I was disappointed. So hopefully they'll get down there next time. I think they're going to be on 70,000 Tons of Metal, maybe. I think I remember seeing that. Anyways, but they, the tour I guess was a big success for them. At least it seemed like it. So maybe next time around they'll get down here. West coast of Florida. I'm actually on the east coast of Florida right now, but I will be on the west coast of Florida by next year. So, Tampa area maybe, or Fort Myers. Anyways, really great song. And then of course the outro, we have sort of a mirror image of the intro. Of course without the coda. And which brings me to getting into the lyrics real quick. So the story for this album, I'll read the lyrics first. So, hello mountain, remember me, child of your womb. I return from a perilous place to the warmth of your hollow. Embrace me, steady giant, monolith, lend me your heart. I am weakened again, tired, mend my scars. That's the intro. Well, that's actually the first part of the intro, and then the guitars come in here. As your power it sinks into me, your roots take their hold. My body is one with the earth, my blood is the stone, the mountain my home. And then we go into the main part of the song. Heavy walls enclose me, cover me in endless warmth, and now the dreams will come. Lucid freedom takes me to a world no longer run by the laws of relativity. Fly out beyond the stars where the wind takes me away and leads me through the dark to find gravity. Which is interesting. Can you follow me? Follow me to apex. Through a meadow running, feel the sun upon my face, and the air intoxicates, rushing like a river toward a waterfall that takes me out beyond reality. Away you lead me through the dark to find gravity. And then can you follow me? Follow me to apex. And then we end with Brother Mountain, now we sleep. For 1,000 years, I will see you again. Something is coming for me. So I think it's important to put into context, what this song is about, because it seems like sort of maybe on the surface generic fantasy lyric type stuff, but actually not really all that fantastical with this song. it's so in the story we have the matriarch awakens the I'm blanking on the our protagonist here, so to speak. And this spirit of the mountain, or whatever you want to call him, is bound to whoever awakens it. So is bound to the matriarch. The matriarch basically sends, this ancient being out on a mission to kill her. I think four offspring, and so the mountain, of course, bound, the spirit of the mountain rather, bound, does its bidding, and slays the four children, with the promise that the spirit of the mountain will be freed from being bound to the mountain, and it's interesting. I'd be curious to know whether or not this is like sort of the formation of this being. Is it like a sort of like a simulacrum, like a golem type creature? Not golem, like the creature from Lord of the Rings, but like a like an animated structure made of earth, or is it like an actual manifested being, or is it like a spectral manifestation? Like, I was interested about that because I'm like, well, so if he was unbound and freed, would he have like a human? Would he basically be a human at that point, or she? It's an interesting question. I just had, when I was, because Brittany did a series of videos. I think 2 different videos, where she broke down the songs and the story, and it's actually it's a very good story, and at the end here, the spirit of the mountain is basically double crossed by the matriarch, and is sent back and still bound to the mountain. So returns, I guess, in sort of maybe a shame, to sort of mend his wounds and to sleep for a certain period of time, and then it says, as your power sinks into me, your roots take their hold. I think this is him healing back up and becoming one with the mountain again, and heavy walls enclose me. Yeah, so almost like the mountain, it's sort of almost like she is a manifestation of the mountain, almost like literally a spirit of the mountain, and is sort of folded up and enclosed back into the mountain, taken back in. I laughed a little bit because the end line, away and leads me through the dark, defying gravity, the way that line is said is almost identical to a line of the same, basically that ends the exact same way, from the musical Wicked, which is really strange. I don't know if that was an intentional nod from Brittany on that, or if it was like just a happy coincidence. But I thought it was kind of interesting, because I worked at a performing arts center for many years, and one of the last musicals we did was Wicked when it was doing its run, and the Defying Gravity is one of the songs on the on the soundtrack, and probably the big show-stopping real like tune from the musical, but that line, ending on the phrase "defying gravity" is actually exactly the way it is in the musical. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then the chorus is interesting because who is the chorus directed to? Can you follow me? I mean, I wondered if this was maybe just more of a almost like a non sequitur to the audience, like sort of, because it's that kind of a chorus. It's a sing along chorus, right? Or is it directed to? I don't know. That one was one question that I had, with this. And the way that these verses are, fly out beyond the stars, through meta running, fill the foot. It's almost like whatever. It's like I'm thinking this is a dream, like there, because he says he enters a sleep. We sleep for 1,000 years, so I think it's he's dreaming about being able to be free. Not bound to the mountain. So in his sleep, I'm gonna, because it's a spirit of a mountain. I'm just gonna use he to make things easier here. But it's like I think the general sense of just being free, and not being tied to is obviously this being loves its home. He says it in the song, but it's there's also that desire to be free, I think, and the dream is sort of a manifestation of that. At least if that's what if this is meant to be sort of a dream. I don't think it's literal because he's inside the mountain, but he's talking about running through a meadow and feeling the sun upon his face and breathing in the open air, and then the very last line, the last verse, the outro to the song, Brother Mountain, because there's a symbiotic relationship between the actual mountain and this being. Now we sleep for 1,000 years, and then I will see you again. So saying, obviously there's some sort of a prescience to this being where it knows that it's going to be summoned again and that something is coming to summon him again in 1,000 years. Will it be the matriarch? Will it be somebody who's trying to, because the matriarch, she got what she wanted. She, whatever power there was in the blood of her children being spilled, she got it. So maybe somebody who's trying to stop the matriarch, But it's an interesting. It'd be really interesting to see where they go with part 2 of this story. I assume that Britney's already started writing the follow-up. So it'll be real interesting to see when that comes out. They seem to be putting albums out at a pretty quick pace, every year or two. So it's not like Blind Guardian where we have to wait 6 years for an album. So, not that I'm bitter, but it's, but yeah, I mean, I really like this song. I just, and I think the main thing that really grabbed me initially about the song was that I think it's rare, even among female-fronted metal bands, to really allow a female singer to just completely open up, almost like in a way that you would have from like a pop song, or something like that. And it's not that it's that. But it's her being able to use her range and not be doing the rock thing necessarily, the power scream, right? Not that I've got anything against the power scream, because I was a huge fan of Lost Horizon. which, you know, was the thing that initially attracted me to Unleash the Archers, because I heard Tonight We Ride and I was like, holy shit, this is a female version of Daniel Heyman. It's crazy. It's like, you know, it's like, this is nuts. So yeah, it's my freaking voice is still from this damn laryngitis. It's funny because I went to the doctor and he's like, have you been, you know, not using your voice? And I'm like, Doc, I've got to use my voice. It's my freaking job. I talk for a living. Not this. I'm talking about my actual, you know, paying job. You know, plus and then this on top of it. But, you know, I'd taken a break for a week or so from this, a week and a half. Actually, it was 2 weeks because of the actual holiday too. So, you know, it was 2 weeks, but I still had to talk, you know, like the whole day at work. There's nothing I can really do about it. So he's like, well, it's going to take you longer to heal. And I'm like, what do you want me to say? You know, I can't take a month off of work. Anyways, so, you know, apologies for the, you know, voice cracking and, you know, general hoarseness and everything. But, so yeah, that's Apex. This is a heck of a song. This is a great song and a great album. So if you love the album, if you love the song, or well, if you love the song, get the album. Like I always say, support these artists. They need your support. So that's it. Stay metal, guys. Calendros out.